Alright, Adidas, you might want to do a little more taping because this is how this package arrived. I was very concerned that my product was not inside when I went to go pick it up, and this is how it was. I was like, oh, tamper evident, yeah. What? Huh? How is my package arriving like this, bro? So I kind of peeked to make sure things weren't missing, because I was a little bitter when it arrived like this. I was like, WTF, Adidas. So they are still in there. Let's get them out of here. If you're gonna use a big box like that, you might wanna properly seal it so it doesn't just eject upon shipping. So, I'm kind of excited about these. We finally got them. We got the Adilette 24, Adidas Adilette 24. I noticed the other day that they had popped. These are a little pricey. Is my mic on? It is on. Okay. So we will pull them out, take a look at them. These retail for $120. They are in all leather. Oh, we do have a rubber outsole. Very nice. So I saw these on Elliot Page's top 10 slides for the summer. I was like, what are those? He's like, Adilette 24, super comfy. I was like, we don't have those. I think he had them in blue too. So we've got us a pair in the green. They only had 2 color options on the Adidas website as of now, green and black. And you know me, if you've watched any of my videos, I'm not big on black slides. So we went with the green. These are kind of funky. I kind of like these, how chunky they are. They feel like they're kind of comfy too. This leather is pretty sweet. All right, let's, before we dive in too much, let's go read what they have on the website. Okay, with my too long hair. All right. These are selling out quick. If you are interested in them, I would grab them sooner than later. They are already sold out in the 12s and the green, and it says they have 3 left in stock in the black in 12s. So these are going quick, and they're already sold out in the other neighboring sizes. So unless you wear a 13, you can get them in the green. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait for the restock. All right, so they will not accept coupons. I was gonna use some of my points because they got this whole point system with Adidas. Their club, you can convert your points to discounts. I was going to do that, but they don't accept discounts with this model. Promo codes will not apply to this product. So they want your money. They want all of your money. All right, these don't have any reviews yet. We might have to be the first. Description: ultra comfortable slides that feel every bit as soft as they look. They do look pretty soft and squishy. The Adidas Adilette slides have long been known for their comfort, and this pair takes that legacy even further. Inspired by the comfort and softness of a sleeping bag, they have a plush, puffy design. Smooth leather serves as a luxurious treat every time you slide in, providing non-stop comfort. The deets: regular fit, leather upper, textile lining, rubber outsole, imported. All right, and that is all. So grab them while you can. I noticed also that Adidas has college light blaze slides now. They've got a dozen different college designs now for the light blaze slide, which are kind of cool looking. Oh, the Climacool. Someday when I'm rich and famous. They do look good. But alright, I think that's all for this, so we won't make this any longer than it has to be because it's really hot and I need to turn off my AC while I do these videos because it's really noisy and every second counts when it's 90 out. Alright, back to the shoes. Back to the slides. Alright, so these might be the coolest thing Adidas has done in a little while, I might say. These are pretty chunky, these are pretty heavy. I like that they're made out of leather, or they've got like leather on the outside. That's kind of nice. Like these just look pretty good. These are very heavy though. I can't think of a heavier pair of slides that I have. These are getting into the weight of like the Suds. Not quite, but it's tipping the scale. It's tipping the scale. It's maybe 3/4 of the weight of these, and these are some chunky boys. So that might be the main detractor from these, is they are some heavy bros. But they might be worth it. Sometimes you gotta suffer a little to look good, huh? Alright, so we've got some interesting stitching here around the insole. Leather's kind of tucked in there. I like that. That's kind of neat. Leather on the outside. We've got our 3 stripes, of course. Very stylish, very classical looking. I like the green. I was gonna say, I kind of wish we would have gotten the blue like the UK, but I kind of dig the green, and I like that Adidas does different color releases per region. That's kind of cool. Makes them a little more unique. Not that, you know, that everybody can't have the same color. So I kind of like that we got green. Looks pretty good. We've got some stitching on the sides of the strap here too. And it looks like we've got kind of a, like a nylon underneath here. It feels a little soft. It probably helps sliding in between the leather and the nylon. You should have a decent slide in. This top strap is pretty thick. You don't have any like hard material. There's nothing rigid in there, so it feels pretty soft still. It's very padded though. You can see how thick it is. These are very padded. Even this outside, this is very padded too. You can see the squish factor going on. These are pretty cool, man. I'm kind of digging these. And then we've got kind of our traditional Adilette outsole, like the 22s have. You can see the 22s. These are kind of big, but they've got a lot of, it's really thick on the edge though, you know. But it has that same hole placement. And that was on the Adilette lights too. I don't know if you saw that video, if you remember. So they're using kind of the same outsole pattern that they've used on a lot of their Adilette slides. So I kind of like this green over the worn one, a little more vibrant. So pretty cool. I think that might be all we have to show in hand. We can go ahead and throw them on foot and see how these puppies fit. I'm excited. These look super comfy. They look like marshmallows, like marshmallow slides. Michelin Man slides. These will look good white. They should have did a white and a black, man. White with black stripes. Boy, these would have looked awesome. These would have looked pretty cool. All right. Let's slide into these puppies here. All right. I'm kind of stoked for these. Look at how big they are next to my UFOs. Ooh, boy, oh man, that's like a pillow as you slide in. It just feels like a pillow underfoot. That's kind of cool. All right. All right, not bad, not bad. These are so big. Look at how chunky these are. They're so wide. So there's kind of a nice pillowy effect underfoot. These are some chunky boys. These are pretty heavy. These will be like a nice winter, like a nice winter slide. These are all right, so you can see how wide these are. Let me throw on a pair of UFOs next to them, just to see the width comparison. They've got a good amount of platform to them. They feel like they're elevated a little bit. I feel like I'm an inch off the ground. They're not on equal planes, you could say, between the left and the right, but you can just see how wide these are. in their fit. But the actual footbed is kind of standard in its width. That was my immediate impression sliding into them. Was you can feel that pillowy insole underfoot as you slide in, but then the moment you step down, you feel the borders of that insole. So even though these are super wide, a lot of that material is like on the outer edge. You know, like this big, beefy outer edge to it. And the actual insole where your foot goes is kind of narrow. Or at least where they've got the seams. Because you can see that my foot it's kind of maxing out the width of the footbed. So I can kind of feel those, where it's tucked in, I kind of feel that a little bit, just on the edges of my foot. These would be a little more comfy if that insole area was just a little bit wider, I think. So I like the slide-in impressions. That feels very nice. Just the leather underfoot as you slide in. It makes me think of like a leather couch. I'm not getting much of a sleeping bag vibe off of them, but these are very they're pretty comfy. They feel pretty nice in their quality. I've never had anything like this on foot. These are very unique, so I can't really like compare and contrast them too much because they're kind of a standalone model. But so we've got this big pillow, but it kind of maxes out its softness underfoot, and it's a little firmer underneath that. So even though it's like a pillowy top, and it feels very comfy and kind of plush underfoot, the compression it's a very light compression. It doesn't take much to compress that little pillow, and then you've just kind of got a firmer. There's probably like a cloud foam under there or something, but it feels all right. But it's not super, like once you get past the cushion, it's kind of relatively firm. It's kind of a mid-firm. It's not hard, but I would kind of like it if that was just a little more squishy. So I don't know. We'll let me walk in them a little bit, and we'll see how they do. But these are probably more of like a lounging. Like a lounging slide. They're so big. But they fit, you know, like they're not too large. I would say these run true to size. Go with your standard size, but just like the width of them, they're so big. They feel like, I don't remember. Oh, they used to have like those Bigfoot slippers that you could slide into. They were like oversized, like kind of shaggy. They looked like Bigfoot's feet, and they were like slippers. These kind of feel like that, to where they're like a monster slide almost, a monstrosity of a slide. So they feel okay. They do have that weight to them though. I feel that weight underfoot. So these are like a good lounging kind of winter, I would say, like cold weather comfort type of slide. They're all right. I feel like I'm like limping though as I'm walking in them, just because they're so wide and heavy. I gotta get used to them. They do have weight to them, man. It's like you got a pair of steel toe boots on. That's probably the main detractor of these. But they see, I just kind of slipped right there, or almost tripped. They feel awkward. I'm not gonna lie. They feel a little awkward underfoot. They're pretty cool. They're very unique. Like I said, they're kind of a standalone model. It's hard for me to kind of compare and contrast them to anything else because they are kind of on their own. But they do feel a little awkward and a little clunky, just how big and heavy they are, just for a slide. But I do like them though. I do recommend these if you can get them. I can't really give them pass judgment on the pricing because they have leather on them, so I know that's gonna bump up the cost of production having like legit leather on them. And they do feel very luxurious. I gotta give them that much. These are a very luxury slide, but you might not like their clunkiness and their weight and their width. That might be a main detractor, but some people like really clunky big footwear. I continuously get comments on all of the Crocs that I've reviewed. And those are like the clunkiest shoes that you can get, and people absolutely love them. So maybe the clunkiness and the weight of these is not a negative. Maybe it's just a characteristic about them that should not be perceived as a detractor. Because some people perceive that as like a positive, you know. But to me, it's a little clunky. And I feel like my balance is off a little bit just trying to walk in them. With them being this heavy and being slides, because usually when I have footwear this heavy, it's like laced on, they're like boots, you know, so I'm not having to like, I don't know, walk awkwardly with them, you know. So that's probably the main detractor from them, is they're a little awkward. But they're pretty comfy though, I kind of dig them. Oh, we gotta get some download footage. All right, hang on. All right, let's go. I took a sock off too, so I could give a barefoot impression. You can hear my skin kind of sticking to the leather. But they don't feel bad barefoot either. Barefoot. They're not sliding off barefoot either. The strap is tight enough that it kind of holds them on. But like initially when I started walking on them, in them with slides, I kind of felt like I had to hold on to them a little bit with my toes. But the more I walk in them, the more I start to get a little more confidence in them, that I don't feel like I'm wobbling as I walk. They don't feel as cumbersome and awkward like the more I wear them. And honestly, barefoot, they feel a little better too, just in terms of holding onto the foot. They feel like they're just kind of latched on a little better barefoot, as opposed to with the socks. They're just a little more slippery with the sock, but like the barefoot it's just holding on a little bit better. But yeah, these are kind of nice. These are kind of nice, kind of premium. I kind of digging these, kind of luxurious. These are some nice, some nice pillowy leather luxury Adidas slides. So not too bad. I would have to recommend these. Like I said, the price point's a little high, but they're leather, so I can't give them too many negatives based on the price point, just for what they're offering. So maybe if there was a competitor out there, maybe if Nike put out a big cushy pillowy leather slide, yeah, right. But if they did and had a separate price point, then I could be a little more critical of the price of these being $120. But I being standalone models, I have no reference of like price for them, so I would have to say that it's fair having a pair of leather slides. So a lot of leather on it too. I remember the Y3, or even there's been like the some premium comfort slides that have a leather strap on them, and then they'll go for like $200-300, and it's just the strap. It's just a little strip of leather, where these have an entire like leather upper to them. So the $120 price point might be fair. Might be fair. But yeah, these are pretty sweet, man. I kind of dig them. I have to say, good job, Adidas. These are kind of nice, kind of comfy. All right, let's wrap this one up. All right, the Adidas Adilette 24 slide. These are kind of cool. Very unique, very different. I would have to recommend them. They're kind of luxurious. These will be like a nice winter slide. Kind of like a comfort slide in a sense. More of like psychologically comforting than like physically comforting. They are physically comfortable, but just in terms of like if you think of like comfort foods, you know, these are like comfort slides. So it's more of like a psychological comfort, just having like the plush, cushiony leather. These feel like leather sofas or leather lazy boys on your feet, basically. I don't think they feel like a sleeping bag. These feel like a leather couch on your feet. And that's probably accurate, just based on how chunky and big and wide they are. They're like a leather couch on your feet. So these are pretty cool. I recommend them. So I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below on the Adilette 24 Chunky Boys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on them. If you picked them up, if you think they're cool, if you think they're too expensive, if you think they're too heavy, you know. Share your thoughts. I like to hear them. All right. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.